Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off.
Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to the 296th episode of the Alfa Insurance Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. Today we're going to be joined by Schley County head coach Darren Alford in the final segment. The Bobcats clinched back-to-back region titles for the first time in school history, had their perfect regular season for the first time, and obviously made it to the finals last year. Replaced a lot of guys, but they are really doing outstanding work at that program, so I'm excited to have them on for the first time. We're also going to cover, like we do each Wednesday, the composite rankings, and this is obviously the pre-playoff poll. So we'll talk about any top 10 matchups in the first round, and also I'll give you my favorite unranked teams heading into the playoffs. So let's get started with the composite poll. All right. So in Class 7A, this is very interesting. I'm just going to refresh real quick. All right, so this week, heading into the playoffs, very interesting. Mill Creek, number 1, Walton, number 2, Colquitt, number 3, Buford, number 4, Carrollton, number 5, Grayson, number 6, Newton, number 7, Westlake, number 8, Milton, 9, North Cobb, 10, and Norcross, number 11. Obviously, the big change is Mill Creek going up to number 1. Walton is at 2, and Colquitt at 3. All are undefeated. Grayson went up to number 6 after clinching the region title. They look outstanding. Had a huge win over Parkview. That sent Parkview out of the poll. And then in 6A, Thomas County Central remains number 1. They closed out a perfect season. You got Gainesville at number 2, Douglas at 3. Hughes got a bump up to number 4 this week. Rome is at 5. They improved a spot. That's because of the Max Preps ranking bumped them up to number 3. So they lead Lee County 35-29. Lee County's at 6. Marist is number 8 behind Roswell. You got Houston County, Woodward Academy, and then receiving computer votes is North Atlanta after their 9-1 season. All right, in 5A, Coffee is once again number 1. They had a massive victory to close out their season. I think I saw a stat, their defense is giving up just 5.4 points per game. Just outstanding season for the top-ranked team in 5A. You got Creekside coming in at number 2 this week. Then tied for 3rd, Jefferson and Cartersville. And then right behind them is Kell at number 5. That's the highest they've been all season long. Number 6, Ware County. Hiram at 7. Warner Robins re-entered the poll after closing out the region title. They come in at number 8. GAC at number 9, and then Calhoun, that's pretty crazy. They come in at number 10, and that's because of the computer votes they got in the Maxwell. They're at number 9. Max Preps, they're number 8. None of the human polls had them in the top 10, but they get 5 points as a result of that, and they're ahead of Dalton, Mays, Harris County, and Eastside. So in Class 4A, no surprise here, Benedictine number 1. This is a new development. Tied for number 2 is Bainbridge and North Oconee. Bainbridge had a massive win over K-Road to close out the season and win the region title. They have not lost within Class 4A this year. Their only loss was to Thomas County Central. All right, Spalding moved up to number 4. They did not play last week, but the week before they clinched a perfect season with a solid win over Perry, who comes in at number 5 in a tie with Stockbridge. Stockbridge is a team that wasn't in a lot of these polls until I'd say 3 weeks ago. They've been tremendous though, and as I always point out, their only losses were to Colquitt County and Douglas County. All right, you got Central Carroll came in at number 7 this week. They had a hard-fought win over Heritage Catoosa to clinch the region title and close out a perfect season. LaGrange entered the poll for the first time in the composite this week, an 8-2 finish. They had a huge win over Troop. Defense is playing outstanding, and they've really come on strong. They got transfers to replace a lot of their offensive leadership, primarily the quarterback position. Brought in a running back too, and that team is really playing well. And then you got Stars Mill, the Region 4 champ, at number 9, and then Burke County re-entered at number 10. Just outside, you got Troop, Stevenson. Stevenson clinched the region title. Cairo and Westminster each receiving a vote. All right, in Class 3A, Calvary Day leads Cedar Grove just barely with 57 votes. Cedar Grove has 56. Both are obviously region champs, and despite Cedar Grove's 5-5 record, they have not lost within Class 4A. Within Class 3A this season. Mary Persons is at number 3, and I was corrected yesterday. Mary Persons was the team that beat Prince Avenue. It was not Monroe area. It was Mary Persons. So they are at number 3, even ahead of Stevens County. Just how impressive their season has been, because we know 9-1 Stevens County has had some big-time victories. And then at number 5, Savannah Christian, team that's going to be a very tough matchup for anyone in 3A. You got a tie for number 6, Lumpkin County and Morgan County. Number 8, the defending champ, Sandy Creek, Carver Columbus, a dangerous Tigers team at number 9, and then tied for 10, Crisp County and Hebron Christian, and then number 12, Adairsville, who clinched the region title. I think what's interesting is Crisp County has come on strong late in the season. They lost a year ago to Thomasville by 40 points and then beat them by, I think, 40 points this year. They earned the number 2 seed behind Carver Columbus. All right, in Class 2A, Appling County enters the playoffs number 1 ahead of Pierce County. You got defending state champion Thompson at number 3. Every single human poll has Thompson at number 1, but the computer rankings are not giving the Bulldogs any credit. Maxwell has them at 8. Max Preps has them at 8. And so that's why, despite being number 1 in our poll, AJC, GPB, and 680, they are number 3 in the composite. Callaway is number 4, battle-tested, state championship contender for sure. You got Toombs County at number 5 ahead of Rockmart. Tied for 7, Northeast, Macon, and Fellowship Christian. And then Cook at number 9. GPB has them as high as number 6. And then you got Fitzgerald and Athens Academy also receiving votes. All right, in Class A Division 1, Prince Avenue Christian is the number 1 consensus, 60 total votes. You got Commerce at number 2, a sizable lead over Bleckley County and Tryon, who are tied for number 3. Elbert County at 5, Dublin at 6. Dublin jumped up in the polls. They had a big win over Swainsboro this last week. You got Rabun County at 7. Swainsboro fell to 8. They were as high as number 2 for most of the season. Lamar County at 9, Bryan County at 10, and then Brooks County at number 11, just outside. All right, one more. Class A Division II. We got Schley County at number 1, similar to Prince Ave, 60 total votes. And we'll have the Bobcats on later on in the show. And number 2, Manchester. Then you got Clinch County at 3, the defending state champs. Bowden at 4, Macon County 5, Greene County 6, Aquinas 7, Jenkins County 8, Portal 9, Dooley County 10, and then also receiving votes, Johnson County, Telfair, Lincoln County, and Washington Wilkes. And I think what's interesting right there in Class A Division II, Schley County is going to have a bye this week because they matched up with Region 7, who only has 3 teams. And so it's very likely they're going to be playing Lincoln County in the Sweet 16, which will be a really tough matchup. All right, so there's the rankings. Let's look at some of the top 10 teams in each of those, Class 3A, 4A, and 5, and just see who they're going to be playing in the first round. All right, so number 1, Calvary Day, they got Jackson. Carver Columbus has Richmond Academy. Cedar Grove is going to play number 4 seed Hebron Christian. Lumpkin County has Gordon Lee. Let's just look at Lumpkin County real quick. This is Heath Webb's second season there. He came over from Gainesville. Last year he took them from a 2-8 team to an 8-3 team. And then this year they clinch a perfect season. Lumpkin County has never won a playoff game. This is their first ever region title. So it's a big opportunity for them to make history against Gordon Lee at home. All right, Mary Persons, who's number 4 in 3A, they got Long County. They're going to be the top seed. And then number 2, Stevens County, has Carver Atlanta in the first round. So let's talk about this matchup real quick. Stevens County had massive wins this season, beat up on Rabun County. They've played consistently year in and year out. I think this is the biggest margin in their series history. They've been tremendous. Carver's going to come into this, though, with a 2-7 record. But when you look at Carver, they have a reputation to show up in these big games. They aren't going to be intimidated. So who is Carver's 2 wins against this season? They beat LaGrange in the opener, 28-12. Great victory. And then they shut out Mundy's Mill before region play, 28-0. That is a great victory. And then their losses, tough one to Calhoun, second week of the season. They lost to Stevenson, Class 4A region champ. They lost to Buford. That's not a bad loss. They lost a battle to Peach County after that, playing Peach County right after the Buford game. That's not easy to do. And then they went toe-to-toe with Sandy Creek, 20-15 loss. Toe-to-toe with Douglas, 17-7. And then a close game against Cedar Grove, 24-14. So that Carver defense is playing outstanding. They just got to show up offensively, play complementary football, and I think that is a game that is going to be a close number 4 seed against number 1. As good as Stevens County is, it's no disrespect to them. I just think looking at that 2-7 record for Carver, do not let that record fool you. A shutout over Mundy's Mill, that you have to be a physical team to do that. All right, so the other top 10 matchups, Sandy Creek against Monroe area should be an interesting test for Sandy Creek. I think the key that we mentioned, Cedar Grove has not lost within Class 3A. Sandy Creek, obviously they lost to Cedar Grove, but none of those teams in that region that pretty much swept their way through the playoffs last year, has played within the classification. So this is a good opportunity to see them against playoff caliber 3A opponents. And then another interesting matchup, you have Oconee County against Douglas. Oconee County's got a great reputation for being a defensive, tough team. They don't make a lot of mistakes, and they have made deep runs in the playoffs every single season. They're going up against a battle-tested Douglas team. Douglas is going to be on the road. Should be a great matchup. And then Savannah Christian against Peach County. What a matchup that's going to be. So that's just a look at 3A real quick and how the ranked opponents are going to be matching up. All right, let's go to 4A and look at the ranked teams. All right, number 1, Benedictine against number 4 seed Baldwin. Baldwin got the number 4 seed out of really talented region that includes Perry, Spalding, and Westside Macon. All right, you got number 2, North Oconee is going to be playing Pace Academy. Pace Academy had to sneak its way into the playoffs. They lost a bunch of close games this season. It's really been the last few seasons. They've just had the inability to close out close games, but they're a talented team nonetheless. But I think North Oconee is probably the biggest favorite to potentially take out Benedictine this year. They've been absolutely flawless this season. All right, number 3, Bainbridge is going to be hosting Trinity Christian. Trinity Christian's got a great defense. They're well coached with Kenny Dallas, and Phoenix Moss can really run the ball. All right, number 4, Spalding. Perfect season. They're going to have to play Wayne County, and they're going to have to handle Matt Fuller. You expect in a game like this, season on the line, he could be taking 28, 30 carries. He's one of the best backs in the state. I think it's just going to be about stopping him, and then Wayne County feeding their bell cows in the backfield. All right, number 5, Central Carroll is going to be playing Hateville Charter. Hateville actually had a chance to contend for that region title with Stevenson, Westminster, and Holy Innocents, but kind of slipped late in the season, so we'll see if they can rebound. Central Carroll's been obviously perfect this season. They did have to claw their way in the last outing against Heritage Catoosa, but their offense has been outstanding. All right, number 6, Stockbridge is going to play North Hall. North Hall comes out of that Region 8. They got the 4 seed after falling to East Forsyth, a team that was outstanding all season long. I think it's a big test for them, but with North Hall, you come out of that Region 8 where there's 9 teams contending for those 4 playoff spots. You've already proven that you're a top-tier program in 4A. All right, in number 7, Perry is going to be playing Burke County, a really good matchup. Perry was cruising. They lost their first game of the season to Houston County, hadn't lost within Class 4A until the Spalding game, but they were without their quarterback, Coulter Ginn, and had to rely on Mark Gordon to really turn that offense from a passing attack into a run-first offense. So I know Coach Smith, after having a few weeks to adjust, think they're going to be just fine. And then you got Burke County with Franklin Stevens in his debut season as head coach, returning to his alma mater. They were ranked very high early on, but suffered some losses to New Hampstead, and then got the 3 seed out of that Region 3. All right, number 8, Cairo. How are they going to rebound from that Bainbridge game? They're going to have to play Troop. That's the only top 10 matchup we have. Number 8, Cairo against number 9, Troop. And finally, Stars Mill against Shaw. Stars Mill started the season slow, but then really dominated it, and I give them a lot of credit in region play, because that was the team last year that, despite finishing 7-3, lost the 3-way tiebreaker and missed out on the playoffs. I thought they were the best team in the state that did not make the playoffs, and now they are region champs, the number 1 seed, so mission accomplished for them. All right, let's look at 5A just with the top 10 matchups real quick. All right, number 1 Coffee's got Chambly, and that is Coach Swank. Number 2 Creekside is going to be playing Flowery Branch, and Flowery Branch got the 4 seed out of a really great region this year. When you have teams like Clark Central and Winterboro on the outside, that's a really tough task to come out of that region and earn that playoff spot. They had to win a lot of big rivalry games, and they have been great offensively. Creekside, though, would be a very tough draw. All right, number 3 Jefferson is going to be playing at Maynard Jackson. That's just going to be all about Sammy Brown and company. I think he has the ability to do what John Tavius Curry did last year for Thompson and just lead them in any game. They're not going to shy away from feeding him the ball when they need it. All right, Cartersville is going to be playing Centennial. Then number 5 Ware County is going to play Decatur. Number 6 Kell and Cass will be our matchup. I'll talk about that on the other side. And then you got Hiram against Cambridge. Number 8 GAC against Dalton. Putting that one on spotlight for sure. That's going to be a great game. And then number 9 Warner Robins against McIntosh. And one of my favorite matchups in the first round, Harris County against Ola. So we'll be back on the other side. I'm going to start with Class 3A. We'll look at the bracket, and then we'll welcome on our guest later.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, does it matter if this leaks?
It don't matter to me, can't see it from my house.
Illegal use of hands, improper training.
GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com has 14 different highly skilled trades with tuition-free training in our certified apprenticeship programs to train you the right way. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
All right, welcome back. So I'm going to start with Class 3A. Let's see if we can pull up the bracket, see if this is going to fill the screen out right. Fantastic. All right. So I'm going to start with an interesting matchup between Sandy Creek, the defending champs, and Monroe area. So I'm going to talk about Monroe area real quick. What's going to be the key in this one? So with the Purple Hurricanes this season, senior Darren Manuel, he plays running back and linebacker for them. He has played a huge role in that backfield. We know Sandy Creek has really relied on the run this season, and then in key games for Monroe area, it's been Darren Manuel, the senior. He started off the season against Loganville, a great 5A school, 25 carries, 117 yards. Led them to victories against Cedar Shoals and then Eagles Landing. They lost 3 straight. That's Prince Avenue Christian. They lost a close one to Morgan County and then fell to Stevens County. They ended up beating Hebron Christian in region play 17-14. They lost a close one to Oconee County 14-7. So they've got a great defense. The 2 shutouts to open the season, the tight games against Hebron and Oconee, and then they closed out the season very strong. 35-0 win over Franklin County, 23-14 win over Hart County this last week. In those 2 games, Darren Manuel against Franklin County, 22 carries, 214 yards, and a touchdown. And then this last week, 23 carries, 167 yards, and a touchdown. On the season, Darren Manuel, 176 carries, 1,400 yards, and 12 touchdowns. So I think he's just going to be the key. They're going to feed him the football. If that offensive line can control, and if that defense can play well against the speed of Sandy Creek, I think they can make it a ball game. It's just going to be about keeping it within striking distance and then just playing tough. But I thought that was an interesting aspect to watch as two teams that are really great at running the football. All right, I mentioned Lumpkin County, 10-0 under Coach Webb, looking to win their first ever playoff game. I think there's another big kind of historical opportunity for Harlem. They're going to be playing Thomasville in the first round, a very dangerous number 3 seed. And for Harlem, this is one of their best seasons in school history. Let's pull it up real quick. I think this is their first region. Okay, they won their first region title last year since 1974. They ended up finishing 10-2 this season. They are 7-3. They earned the number 2 seed. They had an opportunity to win the region title last week against Morgan County. They ended up falling. Morgan County is ranked in the top 10, and so their only other losses this season, they lost by 1 point to Elbert County. So every single game this season, Harlem, out of the Augusta area, they have been really solid. I think that Harlem and Thomasville game will be a lot of fun if you go there. And then I like the Bremen and White County matchup. Where's that one on there? Let's see. There it is. So top left, yeah. Bremen and White County. What I like about White County, yeah, they're the number 3 seed, but they came out of a really tough region. Teams like Gilmer, Lumpkin County, and Wesleyan. And then we mentioned earlier just Oconee County against Douglas. I want to see how that region competes against other 3A top-tier teams. So that should be a very good one. All right, so let's move on to 4A real quick. Do we have that graphic? Okay, there we go. All right, so I think that Wayne County matchup is really going to be interesting against Spalding. So Matthew Fuller, let's look at his numbers real quick, and then some of the other playmakers for that Wayne County team. At quarterback, you got sophomore Jeb Craven. This season, he has passed for 9 touchdowns, nearly 1,000 yards, and he is going to hand that ball off gladly to Matthew Fuller, 6 foot, 215 pounds. In the game against Benedictine, it was a 38-21 loss. Benedictine has not lost to a 4A school in 3 years, so a really close game. They played them well for 3 quarters. Benedictine just pulled away, but 30 carries, 153 yards, 3 touchdowns against that defense. That is very impressive. Against Statesboro earlier this season, took a season high 32 carries, 136 yards, 4 touchdowns. Statesboro is going to be playing Tucker this week in the first round. That will be an interesting one. But basically, he's averaging like 22 carries a game. He's got 1,600 yards this season and 21 touchdowns. Matthew Fuller is a guy that he can go into that matchup, and he can certainly lead them to a victory. And I think that'd be a big one. I mean, Spalding's undefeated. They've had a great run. And with them, it's all about Kurt Clark. Let's pull up his stats real quick. Okay, so this was Spalding's big win over Perry. Probably the toughest team they played all season. They won 31-22 to cap the perfect season. They put up, 25 points in the fourth quarter to close it out. They were up 6-0 at the half. Perry took the lead 7-6 heading into the fourth, and then it was all Kurt Clark. He finished with 245 yards passing and then took 20 carries for 141 yards and a touchdown. If Spalding is going to beat Wayne County, they're going to need him to basically do it all. He's going to have to run and pass the ball efficiently to keep them balanced. They have a ton of speed. Cedric Evans, their receiver, he had 3 catches for 108 yards in the game against Perry. And then also in the backfield, you got Dwight Terrell. He had 2 touchdowns. And then Henderson, 17 carries, 93 yards, and touchdown. I think that is just going to be a great matchup. Spalding against Wayne County. Then I had this other player I wanted to highlight real quick. Okay, that's going to be in 5A, 1 sec. All right, the other big matchups. Central Carroll against Hapeville Charter. I'd like to see Central Carroll play better on both sides of the football. I know they already kind of had the region wrapped up last week, but still that was a close result. They had to battle late in the game. They got to come out, clean up some of those mistakes. Cedartown and Holy Innocents will be very intriguing. Neither of those teams are ranked. They both have played a lot of tough competition. Holy Innocents had some really close losses. Otherwise, they might be a top seed. They lost, I think, by a field goal to Westminster. They fell to Stevenson as well, but I think they can show up, and they're going to run that triple option, and then we know Cedartown's going to run the ball as well, so it should be an interesting one. All right, Luella hosting East Forsyth. I was very impressed by East Forsyth late in the season. They started out hot, just like last year, but then lost some really tough region games where they basically had to win out just to make the playoffs. They lost, I think, by a point to Cherokee Bluff. Tough loss to, I think, either Walnut Grove or Cedar Shoals, but then they played really well late, had the big win over North Hall to clinch it. So this is their first ever playoff appearance, and we'll see if they can get that victory. Just a school that opened its doors a few years ago. And then Perry at Burke County. Will Coulter-Jen be back to quarterback them? All right, let's go to 5A real quick because we're running out of time. All right, so the matchup that I really want to put on notice is Ola against Harris County. This is very intriguing to me. With Ola this season, they had a close overtime loss to Warner Robins after their undefeated start. They lost to Jones County in a blowout, and then they fell by 3 points to Dutchtown. This is the best team Ola's ever had. And I just feel like once they're in this playoff scenario and the season is on the line, earlier some of those games slipped away, but I feel like their leaders are going to step up knowing that it's just all at stake, and I think they could come away with a victory. Harris County, they run the ball extremely well. Ola, they're also a run-first team. They both are coming in at about 230 yards per game, but the key for them, it's going to be freshman Nigel Newkirk for Ola, 5'10", 170 pounds. He had 14 carries, 127 yards, and a touchdown against Dutchtown. Against Warner Robins, had 2 touchdowns, 79 yards, had 175 yards against Eagles Landing, and he has 8 touchdowns the last 4 games. And then on the other side, you have senior Matei Uman, 5'11", 235 pounds, plays middle linebacker and fullback. And so I think Harris County is just going to hand him the football and let him use that humongous frame. This is a guy that, despite being 235 pounds, 5'11", he also plays point guard on their basketball team. He's very swift and physical. And in the win over Sandy Creek, that was Harris County's big win before region play, he took 23 carries for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then in the region championship clinching victory against McIntosh, 27 carries, 163 yards and a touchdown. He's got 1,100 yards on the season. 13 touchdowns, and is averaging 6 yards a carry. So real physical back. I think both teams are going to try to run the ball. It's going to be about long possessions, sustaining the drives. And I think Matei, Human, and then the freshman for Ola will be the key players. But do we have Coach ready to roll? All right, let's take a quick break. I'll be back on the other side.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to georgiaconstructioncareers.com and start your future today.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
All right, welcome back. So now our guest is going to join us, Schley County head coach Darren Alford. Hey, Coach, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. All right, so first I want to ask just about last season and then heading into this year. It was such an exciting run for you guys. You win the region title, you make it to the finals. So I know there were a lot of positives to take away from it, but what was your team's overall mindset just to know that they wanted to get back into the finals and just keep those same high expectations?
Well, of course, we had a great year. It was a first-time thing here at Schley County. It's never happened before, and it was very exciting throughout last season, and we, enjoyed every week of it. And it was new for us, so it was fresh, and it was a new experience every time we did it. But losing to Bowden in the finals, it kind of gave us a little bit of I'm not going to say anger, but the word is want to during the off season. You know what I'm saying? We really we fed off of that, and we tried to feed off that through our off season in the weight room, through our workouts, our morning workouts, the things that we did. We tried to keep that in front of us that, we got as close as we could last year, but we want to finish the deal with it this year. So it's been a driving force the entire season.
Yeah, and it was such a exciting game. It went to Bowden, but either team really could have won it. But you're an offensive coordinator by trade, so, how did the offense take that last season and then just really just put in the work to come out this season, just be able to execute like they have?
Well, it's great when you have to start a bunch of sophomores. Not 2 years ago when we went 10-2 and got beat by Metter in the second round, and they experienced a lot that year. And then, of course, last year they had the run, so we've had a lot of reps with those kids over the last 3 years, and I think that's the biggest thing offensively, that we have a lot of kids that's been in our system now that's doing it, and they understand it, so we can make great adjustments in game now, when someone does something different. And that's been an advantage for us throughout this season. Is, we never see the same defense that teams show us on film. So, when we get into the game, we have to say, oh my goodness, they didn't do anything that we worked on all week long. But our kids are very resilient, and they can, they understand what we're trying to do, and we can make the changes on the field. And it's been to our advantage this year.
And then I mentioned the strength and conditioning aspect of it. You've been a strength coach. How key has that been to just building the confidence of the guys and being able to start guys as sophomores, develop them, and really just have a special group this season?
Yeah, weight room is non-negotiable. That's the first thing I do at our parent meeting every year. We sit down and we talk to the parents about it, and schedules, whatever's going on, in the classroom. Of course, school comes first, but we got to make sure that we're doing the things necessary to get our kids in the weight room every day. And when I took the job 8 years ago, that was the first thing I taught the people here about is, the strength program was non-existent, and we started that then. Actually won the single A state championship in the weight room in 2019. But those things have been, those are that's the most important thing we do. We're going to come in and we're going to do our strength conditioning and our speed training during the day, during the weight room. We're on block scheduling, so I get them for an hour and a half every day, and it's been what we do, and it's kind of what we build ourselves on.
Yeah, and then with your schedule, a lot of these teams, I mean, they don't have regions that are as big as yours. You had 7 region games, but you guys challenged yourselves out of the gates. You avenged the losses to Early County and Bleckley that happened a year ago. Just what do you see during that start, just preparing you for the region?
Well, we know our region is always going to be pretty good on the top side. We've also got some teams on the bottom side that's not quite as good, but there's going to be 4 or 5 really good teams in our year, and Manchester being one and Macon be the other. So when I go out and schedule games that we don't, that are non-region games, I try to find really good wing T teams. We played Irwin in our scrimmage. We played Early County early, in the season also. Those were wing T teams that that I wanted to make sure that we saw, because Manchester was going to be a wing T team, and I wanted to go against some teams because we can't do that in practice. We can't show what they are in practice, of course, because our younger guys don't understand those offenses and they can't do our scout groups like that. And then of course Blackley's a spread team, and they're one of the best ones in the state this year. So it really it gave us an opportunity to train for what we're going to do in our region, throughout the year.
Yeah, and you weren't kidding about the talent in that region. You got Macon County ranked number 2 behind you, and then Manchester number 3. So all tremendous programs. What did you see in those games, though, just knowing you're going against the teams that are trying to make the deep playoff run, have the same goal, just for your team to come out and get those victories?
Yeah, we knew going into the Macon County game this year that they were a very athletic football team, and we knew we were going to have our hands full. It was just one of those games where we had a great week of practice, and our kids came out, and they started really, really fast, and we jumped on 14-0 before, there was like 8 minutes left in the first quarter when that happened, and then from there we, were able to run the ball, run our offense, played really, really good defense versus them. Our guys on the defensive side do an excellent job. They coach those kids up really, really, really good on there. A lot of the points that we give up this year were second half points against our younger kids. I counted them the other day. I think we've given up 70-something points on our varsity, and 42 of those came against Bleckley County. So I'm really impressed with our kids on that side. And they just stopped everything Macon did. Macon had like 65 total yards that night. And I was really proud of those guys. They put us in some really, really good situations on the offensive side. And against Manchester, we shut Manchester out on defense. They scored on a kickoff return. And to me, that was what we tried to hang our hat on that week. We talked about defense. I am an offensive guy by trade, but, when I came here, I wanted to make sure that defense had priority because, they hadn't anybody in a number of years. And defense has really stood up in those 2 games, and those gave us the opportunities that we need on offense to win those games.
For sure. And then you have a multi-year starter at quarterback with Jay. You've led offenses in the past. How does he stack up, and what are his intangibles and things that he's able to bring to the team?
Well, Jay's ability to think on the run is probably his strongest suit. He's 5'10" maybe 5'11", somewhere in there. He's got decent size. He's strong. He works hard in the weight room. But his intangibles are not, your prototypical quarterback look. His intangibles are he understands defense. He understands coverages. He can make adjustments, in the game. And him and Coach McCorkle, who's our offensive coordinator, they think alike. And when you have 2 people thinking alike like that, it's easier. Because he sees what Coach sees when he calls the plays, and his ability to see those things and get the ball to multiple guys. We've got a 700-something yard receiver. We've got 2 400-yard receivers, and we got a 300-yard receiver. So Jay does a great job of spreading the ball around, and by doing that, nobody can just say, hey, we're just going to cover this guy, and Jay understands that. He distributes the ball to those guys very good. And then he can also, he checks all of our coverages. He checks all of our, he checks every blitz. He checks our pass protection right there from the pocket. So, he makes it really easy. He makes us look like real good coaches.
Yeah, a top target he has is Jalewis Solomon. I guess he's kind of leading that receiving corps. All these other guys are getting involved. You're a balanced offense, but the passing attack's really potent. What has Jalewis Solomon just done this season compared to last year?
Well, I'm very proud of Jalewis because this year he stepped up and he's become a real leader on our football team. He plays on Friday nights. The kid plays as hard as anybody. He's had some great games this year, and so he does it on both sides of the ball. He'll go out there and do that on offense, and then turn right around and do it on defense also. But his explosiveness on the offensive side of the football has given us the big playability. And when you take the top off the defense, it makes everything easier, and that's what he's given us. He's given us great minutes, great leadership, and he's given us that explosive ability.
Yeah, and then on the defensive side of the ball, what have you seen this year compared to previous seasons, just with the leadership and just execution? You mentioned just how good the varsity units have been.
Yeah, we have, Jack Clark he's our Mike linebacker, and Jack's the quarterback of our defense. He's also one of those kids that's been a starter since the 9th grade, and he understands exactly what Coach Peavy, our defensive coordinator, wants. And he makes the checks and everything there. And he's to me, he's the best inside linebacker in Division II football. I would take him before I would take anyone else at the inside linebacker. He's worked hard in the weight room. He's gotten leaner. He weighs about 218, 220 pounds. He can run. So he's really been the leader of that defense. And up front, we have our defensive line. We were concerned about that coming in, but we had one starter come back, 40 Trenton Stubbs, who was an all-state returner, and he's just been lights out this year. You can't run at him. He's going to stop everything. And then we've added Wyatt Halstead also in there. He's another defensive lineman that's just really, really good. And then we started the sophomore in there at the nose that stepped up for us and done a lot. The back end, we've got, those athletes that are our receivers. They're all playing on the back end. So those guys have been really, really steady. People have had a hard time throwing the ball on us. So, and it never hurts when you have a 5-star outside linebacker playing for you. And Zayden Walker, he's been really, really good for us a lot of times this year also.
Yep, he's got 14 tackles for loss. The team is definitely getting after it. You guys are on a bye, though, this week, one of the few teams that got the first-round bye. So what's the game plan been, and how do you take advantage of this?
Well, you on weeks you have off, you want to make sure of a couple things. You want to make sure that you stay focused and you stay sharp. So, we're going to practice in full pads throughout the week. I'll give the kids Friday off this week because we'll go scout, of course, that day. And so we're really kind of working on ourselves. We don't know who we're going to play. We'll play the winner of Lincoln and Wilkinson County. So we're kind of, doing a little bit of both of those teams and things that we can see and find. We're trying to, piece together some stuff so we can, have an advantage come Monday morning when we know who we're playing and we get those kids in here and, do our film, do the stuff that we do. And then, Monday's practice, we'll try to implement everything that we're going to do as far as our game plan. So it's very, very, it's beneficial for us. I think, we had a couple kids that were a little banged up, and, I feel like we'll be able to go into next week well at every position.
And then what has this season been like just for the community, the school, and just the overall excitement around it?
It's the expectation this year has been very high around here. And, I coached in Americas, and I understand expectations. So people expect us to be in there in the end. And a lot of times, that breeds a lot of excitement on Friday nights when you're at the stadium. But it also breeds a lot of pressure. And, I'm trying to manage that pressure with our kids because, they feel it too. Every week we go out and, we're going to try to perform our best. But as far as our community is concerned, we have a great community that provides a lot of stuff for us to be successful. You know, I'm excited to be a part of Schley County and the football community here.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us to let you enjoy this off week. Good luck scouting on Friday, and then best of luck in the playoffs. We hope to see you at the bins.
Thank you. I appreciate it now.
You bet. All right. So there goes the Bobcats. They will have a bye and then await the winner of Lincoln County and Wilkinson County. And I think what's interesting about this bracket this year, they've played a lot of the teams that are probably going to be making late runs in region play and non-region. They got Early County in their same quadrant. That's a team they played this year, got the win. Last year, Early County beat them. That would be potentially in the quarters, which with a bye, that's one win and they're rematching with them. And then Bowden's on their side of the bracket. That's a familiar opponent. Obviously, last year they played in the finals, and just a lot of potential rematches. It's going to be a very interesting bracket, but they're the consensus number one heading in. They've done an outstanding job offensively. They're averaging 45 points per game, the best in the classification, and I believe that's probably top 5 in the state this season. Defensively, it looks like they've also taken a step forward despite only returning a few starters. They got a 5-star linebacker and have produced a ton of tackles for loss, and then all their skill guys are ball hawking in that secondary. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch them. But that's it for today's show. We'll be back tomorrow with Keeping It Real with Najee Wilkins. We'll be at the Caskel game on Friday. Najee's going to be covering the Tucker and Statesboro game. We'll have that out also. We've got the latest preseason Week 1 basketball rankings at scoreatl.com, and we also will be covering not only Friday and Saturday's playoff games, but also the cheerleading state championships. We'll have that preview up. Should be interesting. South Forsyth and Lambert became the first pair of teams to both record perfect scores in their qualifier. So we'll see who's able. I don't know what you do at that point if both of them finish perfect in the championship, but it should be a fun weekend. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.